Call the Economic Matters meeting to order today, Thursday, May 9th at 4:08 p.m. We'll just do a roll call. To my right.
Alderman Finlayson, present.
Finlayson. And to my left.
Alderman Savage, present.
Thank you. And Alderman Mark Rodriguez. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as written.
I'll second, but I'd also like to offer an amendment to the agenda.
Okay.
Do that before you.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I'll move to amend the agenda then. So I would move that we add CA 3-19 and O-1619 because they're related to the department reorganization, and O-1219.
Okay.
Are you sure you don't want CA2 and not CA3?
Oh yes, 2, thank you.
We were talking about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
CA2 and O12?
O-12's already on there, so O-16.
O16?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
All in favor for approving the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is appointments and...
Approve the agenda.
Oh. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Appointments and reappointments to committees.
Mr. Chair, I will move to approve the minutes as written
Oh, yes, thank you.
from the April 11th meeting.
So moved, or second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for that. Next, we have appointments and reappointments to committees. We have some amazing special guests here. Thank you for joining us. You're the only ones who are going to be reappointed because you showed up. No, just kidding. But thank you. We'll take, if you both want to just come up for it, but we'll take Marcy, Ms. Taylor-Tallman first, and then our good friend as well, Craig Harrison. Do you want to sit down?
Okay.
And you can turn on your mic there. Well, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for your service in the recreation.
You're welcome.
The Heritage Commission.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your service on the Heritage Commission, and for volunteering on that. I know this is a reappointment, and you've dedicated a great amount of service to the commission, to the city in the past, so we're very grateful for that. For me, I mean, maybe you want to say anything about your interests and why you want to?
I'm on the Heritage Commission because for 22 years I was the Maryland State Department of Education Social Studies Supervisor, and I've been a Annapolitan for 27 years. Before that, my family's from the Eastern Shore. But I love history, and I believe it's a very important idea to preserve, and I also have a small nonprofit that's called the Maryland Council for Civic and History Education. So I teach the Constitution to anybody and everybody who wants to know about it, and part of that is the history of our nation, and the history of Maryland is a great story. Not enough people know about it. I also work part-time as a walking tour guide downtown. So I just recently had an 18th century outfit on, so I decided I would update it to the 21st century before I came in. But no, I love serving. I think the first term is a lot of learning, understanding the policies and the procedures and the work that needs to be done. And there is a lot of work that we do. We just never seem to get finished all of our agenda items from quarter to quarter. So it's busy, and we do the best job we can, understanding and appreciating everybody's heritage.
All right, thank you. We really appreciate that. I'll open up to my colleagues. Yep. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So can you explain, I'm not too familiar with this board, can you explain a little to me what the board's responsibilities are?
The Heritage Commission?
Yeah.
The Heritage is also, we it ends up being our primary job, which we wish it wasn't, but we are responsible for approving all the signage in town. Right now, there's not enough money to provide all new signs for everybody who wants a new sign up. You can just imagine what that job's like. So we spend a lot of time approving and reviewing the verbiage on signage. The issue we're dealing with right now is Eastport, because they're having their celebration there, and they want to have all their signs replaced. But I'm saying to them, you know, we need you to have some money. So it's difficult, because I live in Eastport. But every time you see a sign in town, know that we've had something to do with it. And so that ends up being a lot of our job. But we also do programs like provide history of the schools and history of the communities. So those walking tours that you might see in Parole, for example, that was our latest big project. That's one of our projects that we do. We try to provide information to the visitors and make sure that information is correct. And they can pick up any of our walking tour brochures that we've developed right here in Annapolis or at the visitor centers. So,
do you have does the board, does the commission have a budget at all?
a very small budget.
Yeah.
And that's part of, I mean, we understand that's part of the challenges. So we always try to find cost-sharing opportunities, and of course, we're all volunteers, but we have some amazing historians that volunteer their time in reviewing a lot of information. We recently had a problem with a sign that was getting ready to be installed at St. John's College that hadn't been approved by us, and there was a lot of mistakes in it. So, you know, it gets a little political sometimes because somebody calls somebody. It is Annapolis, and it's a small town, and they believe that this sign should be there. Meanwhile, there's nothing correct in the sign. It's just you care about this person in history that in your mind did this. So we try to be as kind as possible, but sometimes we just say, no, sorry, you can't put that sign there. It's inappropriate and incorrect. And the incorrect part is always what's on our side, because if we say that, then we're the bottom line of saying it's incorrect and we're recommending that it not go forward.
Mm-hmm.
But if a friend of a friend calls somebody and says, we want this done, then we have sometimes emergency meetings, believe it or not, about signs. But in my mind, I think if we had the time and if we had the time, really, I would like to see us do more work for history in schools, in the Annapolis city schools. I feel like there's not enough done for our heritage. And I get concerned when I walk fourth graders around every day, which I do in May, and our kids don't know what their history is. And they live here in Annapolis or wherever. Today I was walking kids around in Allegheny. Now I understand that I had 30 people today, and out of 30 people, 15 children and 15 children. Out of those 30 people, only one person, including adults, had been to Annapolis.
Wow.
And it's their capital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess they don't identify with us, and it was a big day for them to be here all day and learn all about Annapolis. And the adults probably learned more than the kids did. But, you know, so I am very concerned about people knowing their heritage and people knowing their history. And I probably am that person on our commission that is constantly saying, what are we doing about this? Because I think we need to do more.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well,
So-
thank you so much for your service.
You're welcome.
And if I want to just express to sorry, I'm getting confused, board or commission, but if the commission believes that you need more funding, just feel free to always submit a request through, I guess, the committee or through the city manager. We could always consider that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll pass that on, especially to the residents of Eastport.
I do have a question also along the lines of your touring, tour guide, I guess. Are you separate and apart from the historical tours that are taking place, or are you
No,
part?
I work for Watermark.
Okay, so it is Watermark, it's not the historic, the Heritage Commission.
I work for Debbie Goslin.
Okay. Okay, you know, when I grew up in Eastport, went to elementary school on 3rd Street. It's now Seafarers, but it was our elementary school, and we had, I think it was in the 3rd grade, where we had Maryland history. So we learned about our community and our entire state, and at some point, obviously, that was dropped from the curriculum.
2001, to be exact, is when it was dropped from the curriculum. I was working at the State Department at that time. And when No Child Left Behind came involved, people started only teaching math and reading, not even writing, and not science. So it really negatively affected the curriculum in the nation. And Maryland did all we could to fight the wave against teaching history, social studies. But I say to grandparents all the time, and ask your grandchildren what they're learning today about social studies, because they're not. And I know everybody loves STEM, but I'm sorry, learning to be a being a civics person and learning your history, I think is the most critical topic you can learn, because we're supposed to be creating citizens in public schools, right?
Well,
in
you're-
3rd grade, you are supposed to learn your local history, so bravo for your teacher, and in 4th grade, state history. But I can tell you, I could do a study on it. I walk kids around every day, and I just go, wow, this person learned something from their teachers. This person can't even identify the flag. So you're asking the person who loves to talk about this the most, but I do think people should. I always say, ask your children or ask your grandchildren or your nieces and nephews what they're learning, because I think it reveals what's going on today. So think about it. 2001, I teach at the University of Maryland the class that elementary teachers must take in order to be a certified teacher. And 60% of my students are born and raised in Maryland, and I just go, and they're going to be teaching social studies, and they just don't know anything that they should be knowing.
It's
And
all
that's at the University of Maryland.
It's all about the test, and you're absolutely right. When No Child Left Behind came in, anything that wasn't testable wasn't teachable.
That's exactly right.
So, yeah.
I want to say that Maryland did take on a task, and we did do a 7-year study on the problems of what's going on in the social studies classrooms in Maryland, and it's a national document. Everybody uses it. So Dr. Grasmick was wise enough to conduct that research. But anyway, you see I'm on my soapbox here, and I'm sorry.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you.
And that's quite all right, coming from an English teacher. I can appreciate it. And I remember when the study was done nationwide,
Yeah.
to say our kids don't know geography.
Right.
And I made a point that I was still in the classroom to teach them every opportunity about some area of geography that was foreign to them, and especially here at home. So
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'll move that we give a favorable recommendation for Mrs. Toma to the Heritage Commission.
I'll
Thank
second.
you.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Well, thank you so much for coming out.
You're
and
welcome.
for-
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And please, honestly, feel free to reach out if we can support you and the commission in any way.
I will. Thank you.
And her name will be on the agenda for Monday's meeting?
Do I need to report on Monday? No? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Hers is already on the draft.
Next, we have Mr. Craig
Oh, okay.
Harrison. Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good
Hello.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, good seeing you again. And looking forward to the next triathlon. When is that going to be? When was it last year?
Last year was the 28th, this year it's the 27th.
All right.
And we'll go ahead and get your comp entry over to you.
Thanks.
Because I think we've already have 5 different departments inside of the city government that are going to be part of it.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. And we're going to try to get the county to get involved with it too, city and county police against Annapolis police, that sort of thing.
Great. Well, looking forward to it. It was great. It was,
Yeah, it'll be fun.
And so, do you just want to say a little bit about the Recreation Advisory Board, what you're working on, just a little bit of background?
Well, the Recreation Advisory Board, our focus is really to help support Archie Trader and give him some support in some of the issues that he's facing. We see at the Rec Council right now that the volleyball is growing in leaps and bounds. There's a lot of pressure that we could have for other teams to be in there on an ongoing basis, and it really could generate a lot of money for us too. There is another facility within 40 miles from here that has what Pitt Moyer has there now. Some of the other areas, the pickleball, I think, is becoming quite popular, and you really have to go ahead and reserve to get on a court there. And as I mentioned earlier, I think that some of the fields really need some more work. The ones over at Bates and some of the ones over at the Pitt Moyer Center itself, because I think that they really have not been maintained the way they should have been. And so I think that's an area that we could probably help Archie.
Talking about the soccer fields specifically, right? Or what?
Yeah,
field?
we've got 3 fields over there now, but I think that we really could upgrade them a little bit more than they are now. And so we try to look and see how the different aspects of what has been happening year to date as opposed to 2018 year to date, and see what new initiatives Archie's trying and see if that's growing it. I spoke with Jen Jennings yesterday, and it's amazing how many classes we have now. I mean, there's over 80 classes a week, and then also we're up to, I think, 6 personal trainers there, and they're doing like 50 hours a week of personal training. So the Pitt Moyer has just been growing tremendously well lately.
Okay. Well, thank you for everything you're doing. Alderman Savage?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for your service as well. And I want to ask, because I'm looking at the duties for the board, and it says that, just to familiarize myself with it, it says on the top that you're supposed to review, make recommendations about the budget to the department. So we are in the budget season. Has the board made any recommendations to, I don't know if that goes to the director or to the council, but have you reviewed the budget, the rec budget?
At our meeting last night, Archie gave me the budget for the first time this year. So we have not had time to review it and go over it. We see what the different salaries are, the benefits, how much overtime is in it. So no, we have not been able to review it.
Okay. When is your next meeting?
It's always the first Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
But I'm going to go ahead and copy it. He didn't have copies for everybody, so I'm going to scan it in and send it around to everybody so we can go ahead and review it.
Okay.
And we can do a lot of that over the phone too.
Okay. Good. Yeah, you still have time. I mean, I don't know when our first meeting is in June, but I'm sure we'll be talking about it for the whole month of June. So,
Second meeting, June 10th?
Council meeting?
yeah.
We'll
June
approve
10th.
it on June 10th.
Oh, we're going to
It's the
approve
10th
it.
and the 17th.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have to approve by the 17th, right? But we're aiming for the 10th, is that right?
Yeah, the 10th is starting in the morning, so it will go.
Okay.
So,
Well, better late than never. If you have any, we can try to work them in if you have certain recommendations or.
I'm going to, once we do an analysis on it and formulate an opinion from the entire board, we'll send everybody an email on it.
Okay.
And we'll try to get that out in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, those, on that same line of questioning, or not questioning, but commenting, the Finance Committee just heard from Rex and Parks earlier this week, and I think we've pretty much agreed to support what's in the budget. But the Finance Committee will present our recommendations to the full council on Monday. So if you have, or if members of your committee would like to come and make comments on the budget, that would be a good time.
That's Monday at the council meeting?
Yeah, Monday evening is the council
Okay.
meeting. And then we still have another meeting later this month, the 28th,
so it's a Tuesday.
which is a Tuesday. and you know who runs us, right? So she's telling me what to say. It's all good. But you did mention maintaining of fields as a concern. Jen also raised the issue of maintaining of equipment and replacing the, like the treadmills and the ellipticals and that kind of thing. And we do need a plan, and we've asked Archie for a plan, Mr. Trader, I'm sorry, for a plan on how we can have the replacement of that equipment on a cyclical basis. So it's not, we don't wait until it dies before we try to come up with funds. But if you guys could help with that and coming up with some sort of a rotating plan and what it would cost for us to be able to replace that equipment on an ongoing basis, that'd be very helpful.
Yeah, we really do need to do more preventive maintenance. And you see too many of the machines that are not in operating condition at the time. And when you see the sign out that says, it's been down, and that sign's been there for 3 weeks, you got to say, So we've seen that.
And the TVs that I don't think are all in sync anymore. She mentioned something about that the other day also. So anyway, you get an idea of what would be very helpful to us.
Yes.
And to Mr. Trader also, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the dialogue that I have with Archie has really improved dramatically over the last 3 or 4 months. He wasn't coming to a lot of the meetings, and I don't think he felt comfortable in there. But he's hit the last 4 meetings now, and he's really making the effort to, hey, let's get together and work together. And I think that's really been very positive.
Good
Great
to hear.
Yeah.
Good to hear. So thank you. Thank you for your service.
Well, I want to thank the alderman. The amount of time that you put in being an alderman is just amazing, And if I'm not here at the Monday meetings, I watch it on television. And you spend an awful lot of time doing this. So thank you for your service, too.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I will recommend a favorable recommendation for the reappointment of Craig Harrison to the Recreation Advisory Board.
I second that motion.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, Craig.
Thank you very much. May I make another statement? There are some other people that are listed that were up for reappointment. Frank Montgomery and Ray Lohman are on travel right now. They could not be here today.
Okay.
I talked to them last night. And Dawn Moyer, she runs a cemetery, and she had a funeral at 2 o'clock today, so she couldn't make it down here. I don't think, I don't know if Bumper really is, I don't know if you're going to vote on them today or not.
Yeah, we are.
You are?
Yeah, because since they're reappointments, and I mean, we'll usually make an exception there. If there was an appointment for the first time, then we would like to speak with the applicant or the nominee. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But thank you for your recommendation of them.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Thank you.
Thank you.
What about John Moyer?
John Moyer?
John Moyer hasn't been to a meeting in over a year. And I think that he's, because we're in limbo for such a long time, I've gone 5 months without having a quorum just to vote on the minutes, because people have really had a very negative feeling how things were going. I'm not sure that Bumper wants to come back.
Okay.
When he's there, he does make a very valuable contribution. And he's got the insight with family heritage and knowledge that he has of the city. He's always helpful. But I'm not sure. And Mike Hughes, he has his own company now. He's no longer with WRNR. He has MH Media Strategies now. And he's traveling all over the place. He'd love to support it, but I don't know if that's the best use of his time.
When's the last time he was at a meeting?
He was the last one.
Okay. Great.
So.
Is he on the agenda for?
For reappointment.
I thought there was something in the, I'm trying to find it, in the code about attendance. Don't they get automatically booted if they miss some?
Yeah.
So I don't know if we should we inquire with Hillary since she's coordinating just to find out if, I don't know, I mean.
I submitted on my end of the year report that I submitted, it had who's been to which meetings
Okay.
on the front page, and you can see. And I believe that if you miss more than 2 meetings, it's difficult for a person to stay on the board.
Yeah, I think I propose we wait on that. Maybe call him in here and see if he's really interested to serve again. I don't know.
I would agree
What do
with
the
that.
colleagues think?
That's fine, I just don't know how. Are we going to not take any of the folks who are not here, not having any data on anyone? Or how does, what do you need, are you the chairman now?
I am.
So what's your quorum? We don't want to decimate your committee so
I
you
just
can't do anything.
I need 6 people to be able to vote, and the most I've had is 5. Last night, just Chris Ace was with me, the 2 of us, and we had a presentation on the swimming pool. And, you know, the contractor came in, the architect came in, and
And you still only have one other person?
one
for
other
the pool.
person, right. Usually, Ray and Frank are usually there, and so is Dawn,
Okay.
but that gives us 5.
Okay, so, I mean, I would defer to the chair's suggestion in terms of knowing who's an active participant, Dawn, Frank, Ray, and maybe postpone Michael Hughes and Bumper or John Moyer, just to be able to have a conversation with them to see if they're still interested. If not, in order to replace them with people who would be more active.
Yes.
And if you have any recommendations, we could pursue it at that time as well.
I'll second that.
No?
And-
Well, I can't make the motion, but you can.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
So the motion is that Mr. Harrison will recommend to us which of these committee members are regular participants,
Yes.
and then we'll approve those today and ask the others to come before us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you have one person on there, Abigail Folks, and she hasn't been on the board for, I thought I saw her name on the agenda
She
earlier.
It is on there.
And Catherine
Yeah.
Simmons.
Yes, and Catherine does show up, but
Okay.
I can send, I can tell you the people that really are active. Chris Ace, her name isn't on here, and she's at every meeting. Don Moyer's at every meeting, and Frank and Ray.
Okay, so I wonder if, who was that, the person you said who wasn't on the list?
Abigail Folks,
No, someone you said who wasn't on this list currently.
oh, Chris Ace,
Chris.
AIST.
Oh, yeah,
And she's
yeah.
been on it for 30
Yeah.
years.
And she's very,
And so are all the appointments aligned in terms of the dates? No.
They're supposed to be every 3 years. You get reappointed, and it was staggered.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
But
her
underneath-
reappointment may not be up yet then.
It could be, well,
Yeah.
yes, it has, because we haven't had any reappointments in over 5 years.
Okay.
well, she's not on this, Chris isn't on this list, so.
So I guess we just.
So let's just approve the 3 or 4 that he mentioned.
Okay, so of this list, Craig, which ones would you recommend that we approve today?
Do you see the list?
Yes, I have it.
Okay.
Ray Lohman, Frank Montgomery, Don Moyer, and where's,
You said Catherine Simmons does?
yes, Catherine,
Oh,
that's what I was looking for, is Catherine Simmons.
she's the last
Oh, there
one
she is,
on
not down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Catherine Simmons.
Okay, I would move that we recommend favorably the reappointments of Raymond Lohman, Frank Montgomery, Patricia Dawn Moyer, and Catherine Simmons Jones.
Well, it's not now.
Is there a
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor of those appointments, please say aye.
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 Okay, and for the remainder of the Recreation Advisory Board, we'll postpone and ask them to show up at the next meeting.
I will send an email to 3 of you with our comments, the people, who's been there, who has been, and just my perception of everything,
Great,
if that'd be
I
helpful.
really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
appreciate it.
So did we vote on those 4? Okay.
So I wonder for the remainder, I mean, we still have one left from the Heritage Commission, Wayne Spate. Maybe we should have asked the same thing to Marcy. Of Ms. Toma.
Well, let's see if he has a resume here, see how long he's been serving.
Kia, do you happen to have any of the board reports handy that show the attendance?
No, because I don't do those.
Okay. I know I've seen that. I just it's on my list of things to review.
Mm, yeah.
So I think I came to the council a few months ago.
I'm looking at Mr. Spate's resume, but it doesn't say anything about how long he served.
I think that information's on the application.
It's on the application,
It's,
which,
he doesn't have one. Most of the reappointments that I get don't have an application.
Oh, it says here, pending, Mr. Spate has served on this board since 2015.
well, he seems to be pretty engaged
Yeah.
in other community groups, historic preservation, ECA, EBA, Porsche Car Club, BMW Car Club, Sports Car Club. Not that those things are relevant, but piqued my interest.
I don't see any reports on there on the commission page, just agenda, past agendas. Well,
Okay.
do you want to, I mean, I'm okay recommending his reappointment.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Boards.
Oh, I see, the minutes, the last minutes they have posted from January 9th, 2019, and well, yeah, they didn't even mention if he was present or not.
Did they meet quarterly?
I think they meet monthly
You said January 9th was the last set
of the
minutes?
minutes, but they have an agenda. The last meeting was May 1st.
Okay, so they just haven't posted their minutes?
Yeah, and then the roll call, the commissioners present, they have Theodore Mack, Winnell Bowen, Robert Warden, Constance Ramirez, Robert Clark, and Karen Engelke. Commissioners absent, Marcy and Alma Cropper. There's no mention of,
Didn't mention him.
yeah,
No mention of the person.
yeah,
Even
So
on
is
there?
he a
Yeah.
new member or not?
no, since 2015.
2015 is what the letter just said.
Yeah, but the minutes don't count him as present or absent.
Well, look, I mean, it's not going to change if we wait a month. It's not going to
Yeah,
matter.
so postpone.
Maybe we can we request
Mhm.
from Hillary, I guess, a copy of the annual report for that commission? And what do you think, Chair? We can
Yeah,
look at it next meeting.
maybe going forward for reappointments, we should at least go by the attendance.
That's a good idea.
Well, we want them here
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
you know, but if they're not going to be able to be here, then they need to provide some documentation to show they've been involved and engaged in the committee.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, is there a motion to postpone his recommendation till the next meeting? And then, ask Hillary to reach out to Mr. Sprague to attend.
So moved.
Second, but question, is that a motion for all of them that we didn't approve or just this one?
I think we already did the other ones on the Recreation Advisory Board.
Okay.
No, there's some that you haven't done. You approved some from the recreation board, but are you
Right.
postponing the other one?
Oh, yeah, then postpone the balance. So postpone Wayne Spate to the Heritage Commission, we're postponing Michael Hughes to the Recreation Advisory Board, postponing
John
John
Moyer.
Moyer, and postponing Abigail Fawkes.
Okay. Second, is that, you need a second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, that was more interesting than expected. So the legislation before the committee is O1219, and then we've also added O1619 and CA219, if I'm not mistaken. So I think, speaking earlier, I think we're all in agreement that currently the way forward with O1219 and the other two is to recommend favorably, but first amended by taking out any reference to the environmental reorganization, right? Do you want to speak a little bit more on that, Alderman Savage? Or-
I spoke yesterday about it quite a bit, but yeah, I feel like there's a lot of discussion to be had about whether or not to reorganize that department or office, and I think I'd like to separate it from the budget and have that discussion and take the time to have that discussion. So that's why I support removing it from this reorganization proposal, or reorganization ordinance.
So you have an amendment to amend out all of the language related to environmental policy advisor?
No, but what I would like to move to do is move that we amend, that the ordinance is amended to remove the reorganization, the components that are reorganizing the environmental office, and to, if the committee makes that decision, then staff can draft the appropriate amendments. That's how the city manager, I think that's what she was recommending the other day, because she had some concerns with how my attempt at making those amendments were worded, and she said if the committee makes the decision, then professional staff will make those changes. So that's all I'm trying to do here.
Then I would like to make a tentative agreement pending seeing the language of the amendment.
I think
We still have to
I'd
vote
agree.
on it.
I'd like to
Yeah.
still see it too.
I do not want the Office of Emergency Management to get caught up in this.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. So yeah, I agree, Alderwoman. I think we need to be careful to make sure the amendments are in compliance with what the board recommends.
Okay, so I guess the motion is to recommend O1219 and O1619 and CA219 favorably with the amendment of,
Endo 16.
and yeah, O1619 to take out the parts that affect the environmental reorganization, and then obviously making a tentative pending final view of the language and discussion around that.
Yeah, so moved.
I assume that's your motion since the
Yes,
chair
I'll
can make a
move.
motion.
I'll move to.
You're not keeping us on track here, Chiquita. I'll
She's had a
second the
long day.
tentative
Rob
motion.
said so moved, so I heard him.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. And as Ms. Stewart and Mr. Evans previously let us know that they could not be here, I'm sure they were looking forward to being part of the fun of the reorganization conversation.
That's probably why
Smart
they
move.
couldn't be here today.
That's
It's like,
exactly
oh
what-
no, they're discussing that? Mm-mm.
Yep. So with that, if there's nothing else for the good of the order,
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I like how your knees are run.
Thanks.
Just joking, That's
Really? Really? And we're not done. I'm gonna sit here and finish this. Tomorrow, we're gonna be done tomorrow. We're gonna just